What's up, guys? Another episode of the Horns Down podcast. Your host, Chris Griffin, Chris with a K on Twitter. You see who I'm with today. Always got my guy, Jay, Unfair Sports. Definitely check him out. Like, subscribe, do all of that. Then we got the Mr. Captain 405 on the show right now. So, hey, we got some big topics to talk about. Got to jump into it right after the intro.
You know, there's a lot of great OU podcasts, but there's only one where the horns are always down. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Horns Down podcast.
So we're back after the little short break. Just it's a lot going on right now, and I'm really excited. Team 129 is about to take the field in less than a week, pretty much, y'all. I'm just head over heels right now. I know it's Arkansas State, but I cannot wait, man. Gotta wash that bad taste out of my mouth from last year. So, of course, again, you guys see who I'm with, right? We're gonna go down the line, let everybody tell you where you can find them at, find all their great content. We'll start with you, Cap, and we'll go to you, Jay.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I'm Captain 405. You can find me on Twitter at cap_405. You can find our new website, social media at crimson_cap on Twitter or X or whatever they're calling that these days. And then we also have our website, crimsoncaptain.com. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, hey, Jay, Unfair Sports. I know where to find me. Find me on YouTube at Unfair Sports. Find me on Twitter at Unfair Sports as well. And got to endorse Cap on this one, man. The film breakdowns they do on the site, chef's kiss. I recommend subscribing, at least just for that. Even if you don't even want the insider information he provides, just go there for at least the film breakdowns. You will not be disappointed.
Y'all see it right there on the ticker, unfairsports.com, and you got crimsoncaptain.com. So definitely check out their websites. Let's get more likes, get more subscribers, and hey, just contribute to the community that way. That way we can keep doing all this content for you. So with that being said, we got 2 commits today, is what it looks like, right? We got Andy Bass and we got Eli Bowen. So I'll start with you, Jay, and I'll just let you tell me what are your thoughts about those two?
I mean, I think that those were some, of course, some really good pickups. First and foremost, Andy Bass, who committed this morning, that's an okay prep. I mean, I said it in my video. He's one of those players that can be leveraged as a Swiss Army knife, and that's actually their goal with him. Think a Blake Bell, but not as big of a guy. But the funny thing is, Andy Bass is like a legitimate 5'11", 200 pounds. Like, he's a legit 200, and he's solid. Mm-hmm. You look at the body size, you look at the way he's chiseled. Yeah, man, that dude's a rock, and I expect him to put on more weight. And he still runs a 4.3 740 while running a 10.5 600 is what he ran in the 100 meters for 3A in the championship. So I'm just telling you, he's fast and he can be used for a lot of stuff. Now, he isn't the perfect quarterback, but at Heritage Hall, he's putting up some damage. And I think that once they put him in here at Oklahoma and whatever packages and random stuff they throw him out there for, y'all will be pleasantly surprised at what he'll produce. So don't let the 3 stars fool you. The man's got game, and he's going to be balling out. Now you go to little Bowen, as we call him, Eli Bowen, the little brother of Peyton Bowen. He is a 4-star on ESPN as well as Rivals, top 500 player in the country. You got to lock up family, man, when you can. And this is a good thing to have a corner. I mean, he's 5'9". I've seen a few complaints in my video, comments of, oh, he's 5'9", blah, blah, blah. So if he's a striker, if he can hit, and he's a hitter, he likes to tackle. And that's something that a lot of y'all have complained about for years about Oklahoma defenders under the old regime. His guys don't know how to tackle. He likes hitting people. And so all he's going to do is bulk up, get bigger, redshirt him. Heck, he might luck out and add a couple inches to his height while he's there at Oklahoma. But if not, if anything, he'll be big and strong. You throw him at the nickel, he's going to be dangerous. So I love both pickups. I like when you take the family in as well as the okay prep piece. All it's going to do is attract other players.
No, hey, I second that. Cap, what you got about him, man? It's too good. It's 2 solid recruits, 2 recruits that have been on our radar for quite some time. Andy Bass for sure. Eli, All the indications were, in my opinion, were that he was going to come to OU, but you thought, okay, well, Oregon, maybe he'll flirt with Texas a little bit more. Maybe he'll string this out. But just give us your overall thoughts about the commits today.
So for Andy Bass, he's one that we've known or thought has been coming for quite a while now. He's a guy that I got to see at one of OU's camps back in June. And that day that he was there, he totally blew away the competition. He was by far one of the standouts at that camp. And that's what resulted in getting his PWO plus offer of sorts. And he's the type of talent that is you typically find getting a full ride scholarship somewhere. And I think the buzzword that you could throw out there about him is versatility, just because he's got the skills to play quarterback. He's a good running back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's extremely fast. He's a guy that probably goes somewhere else, like at Kansas State or Nebraska back in the day, and you look up when you're playing him, when he's playing against the Sooners, and you try and figure out how he didn't make his way onto the roster. And I doubt he gets picked up or even looked at by other regimes, even Bob Stoops back in the day. I'm not sure if those staffs would have really given him this kind of a look. And yes, they have more flexibility with the NIL infused PWO program that they're using now. So that gives them an opportunity to bring in somebody like Bass and not have to make some scholarship choices. But he's got the athletic ability is no joke for him. I mean, he is a legitimate D1 athlete and a guy that will no doubt get some run in some different packages in Jeff Lebby's system. So definitely somebody to be excited about, and never hurts to pull in an OK Preps kid that knows what it means to play for OU. I mean, there is something to that dynamic, and it's definitely something to be excited about. With Eli Bowen, the thing that I keep coming back to with him is that whenever I watched their games last year, and I've talked about this with a few different people, the defense there at his high school was remarkably different whenever he was not in the game. He was consistently one of their better cover guys, and that's with Peyton in the backfield with him at times. So there was a point in time there where there were a few games where he was injured and unable to play, and their defensive effort took a noticeable drop whenever he was not in there. So he's a little bit undersized at 5'9", but he's got the athletic ability that really makes up for that in a lot of ways. He's got good ball skills. He's got decent speed, good instincts overall. Definitely somebody that I think is going to be a contributor at this stage at OU. So again, definitely might go under the radar as far as some of the other prospects that are out there on the board. But his production in high school, his impact on the team there, his overall athletic ability and skill set is definitely one that's going to fit in well with OU. And his was a surprise. I'll just say I had not heard anything about an imminent commitment from him. I think there'd been some noise that it might be coming soon, but he gave us the 2-for-1 deal today with Andy Bass. And again, it was expected. There'd been some noise about him considering Texas, but in recent weeks that had kind of died down. And definitely not a surprise that he's ended up at OU, but definitely another one that OU should be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would say about Eli Bowen is just when I looked at it, I said 5'9", but then, just his kind of how Jay described him as his guy who wants to tackle, who wants to hit. And that's, obviously that's right up in the lies alley right there. Also, I think that with this defense, what Venables is asking you to do, there are certain players on his team that get certain treatment as far as just being asked to do multiple things, as far as being able to play different positions or whatnot. I see this guy being able to come in and at times he's at safety, at times he may be at corner. You know, he could be just like his brother. So I just kind of would love to see that kind of just play out. I mean, with him, I mean, you got to think maybe the other McCullough brother, right? And him, that's your backfield, right? Him and RSJ or whatnot. You got a lot of talent, a lot of depth at that position. Can't forget. I mean, I know Vickers, you know, a lot of talk is about him at corner, but him at safety as well. I mean, you got a lot of depth, a lot of guys coming in. I mean, don't forget about some of the earlier guys who committed as well at safety. So it's just a good look. It's an overall good look, and I think for OU fans in general, we got to take these wins when we get them. Recruiting is hard, and at least that's from my vantage point. It just seems like it's really hard because obviously the whole Winery thing is still kind of lingers a little bit. But with that, I think that's a good segue into our next topic, which is basically I think we're due for another commitment in 2 days from David Stone, hopefully. So I'll open the floor up on that. And Jay, we'll just start with you again. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Are we setting ourselves up for failure again, for disappointment, or, you know, are you feeling good about this commitment?
Honestly, I didn't feel like it was even setting us up for disappointment, even with Winery, you know, in this situation. You know, it's one of those, I don't think that recruitment is over. And honestly, he said it too in the interview when he came to Tulsa. And so going with Stone, being from Oklahoma, the one thing I think Sooner fans and anybody listening needs to recognize is this. David Stone's from Oklahoma. David Stone does not live in Oklahoma. That's the delineation you need to make sure you have, because he's from here. He don't live here. He was sent to IMG for a reason. This is 2 years now that he has not been in this state. And if he decides to pick Miami, it's probably because his mama wants to live out there. Granted, I understand. This is the only time he's going to be able to choose where he lives, because wherever he goes and he continue to grind and hustle like he does, he's going to go pro. He goes pro, he's going to get drafted to a team, to a specific location that he will not choose. So if anything, this is his only opportunity to really choose where he wants to live. Now, granted, I still have Oklahoma very high on this. I mean, we're starting to see some crystal balls come in for him, but I'm still high on Oklahoma winning this one just because of the relationships and the fact that he knows that development is key for him to get to the next level. Going to Miami, I don't think he'll be developed like he would at Oklahoma. So granted, him going there would be about taking the money as well as just enjoying Miami and hopefully just lucking out and getting drafted. He's going to get drafted. We just don't know where. He come to Oklahoma, is a good chance he can get developed just like all the other players that Bates and Venables and them have put out there. Get himself drafted pretty high. So I'm still high on Oklahoma on this one. The tea leaves just look like it's Oklahoma. Heck, he just liked the picture of somebody that's graduating from Oklahoma next year. So I don't know. We'll see.
And, you know, I'll spin that question for you, Cap. I'll just say, not only, you know, are we setting ourselves up for failure in your opinion, but also just he's a must land. We already know that. Like he would be one of the cornerstones of this class, if not the cornerstone of this class. You know, how does OU is obviously in the race. OU is obviously deep into the conversation, deeper than we've been in years, obviously, even under different regimes. How does OU land kids like this, especially coming off of the whole Winery thing, that, you know, how his recruitment went?
I think the way that OU wins these kinds of recruitments, and you have to compete on the NIL stage in this environment, obviously, and that's something that OU has shifted more towards even since the barbecue weekend in June, and that's definitely a big element of it. The other part of it is relationships, which OU has proven to be very effective at. Mm-hmm. And when you're recruiting 17, 18-year-old kids, there's really only so much that you're going to be able to do to change somebody's mind about where they eventually will end up. The levers that OU has available to them to pull in that area, I think they've established a very effective system at taking advantage of and utilizing. So you get down to the point where the factors that are involved in these decisions, the things that OU can control, they control very well. They're competitive in NIL. They have the kind of track record as a coaching staff that lends itself towards being able to convince kids and their families that OU is the place for them. They have the kind of people skills and relationship building skills that are critical in these kinds of recruitments. And so I think from there, it's just a matter of how well are you organized as a staff and how you handle communications within your recruiting department. Are you on top of who's communicating with these kids and how often and what that looks like, and putting your visits together in a way that's effective at communicating your message? And again, OU is effective in all those areas. When you look at David Stone, what I can say about his recruitment in particular right now is, if you go back to just this weekend, I would have been much more and was much more bullish on Miami's chances in this, because David Stone, as has been documented, has a lot of family around him that have their own opinions about where David should end up, and Miami was high on the list for some of those family members in particular. David himself has talked about how there were 3 different occasions where he's tried to commit to OU. Family objections were made, and he put the brakes on that. So ultimately, there was some belief on the Miami side at one point that came to a head last weekend that David was ultimately going to listen to those family objections and side with them. And there's been some word coming out over the last couple of days that has really shifted that thinking to where ultimately my understanding is David's preference has been OU. I mean, if you look at all of his activity over the last, over the last few months, everything points towards him being an OU fan almost, and doing recruiting behind the scenes for OU. He showed up to Jaden Jackson's visit and was an instrumental part in that turnaround for the Sooners. So I don't think there's a lot of mystery around how much David loves OU and really wants to be there. And you don't try to commit somewhere 3 times if you don't want to go there. That's another thing too, So it doesn't take a whole lot of detective work to know that that's probably where David wants to go ultimately. And the word that we're getting, or the word that I've been hearing, is that David he's going to ultimately go where he wants to go. And family objections are still there. I think if you're hearing some Miami confidence or some confidence from Miami, it's probably coming from that direction, if anything else. But based on information that I've got just over the last couple of days, I'm very confident in this going OU's way. And I think, as far as setting themselves up for failure, or OU fans kind of being a little bit shy about maybe getting too overly optimistic about these kind of recruitments, I think that's warranted. No. But because you never know ultimately what's going to happen. There's a lot of different things that can go different ways. But not to be too trite about it, but I think that this is just how recruiting goes. Whenever you're competing for 5-star talent that can go anywhere they want, and that's complicated, or there's different layers that are added to it by the NIL that's floating around and available to people. So it just adds another layer of the decision-making process whenever kids are trying to decide where they're going to spend their college career.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I think one thing that I'm definitely confident and happy to talk about, or just to kind of commend this staff, is that they circle back very quick. It's they lose out on one kid, then hey, let's go back and let's find that Taylor Wine. Did I get it right? Jay?
Yeah, Taylor Wine. You got it right this time.
They circle back and get a Taylor Wine. They, I think, Jay, we talked about, I think, what is it, Gilmore? Wyatt Gilmore out there?
Wyatt Gilmore, yeah.
A lot of people think that he's going to just really get a boost in the rankings as well himself. A lot of people think we're getting a dog in him. So This staff does their homework. They do their own evaluations. I'm confident in what they do, and I trust them. It's just, man, it sure would be nice to land one of those 5-star defensive linemen that has, eluded us for so long. Obviously, getting PJ last year, that was just a bonus and icing on the cake. But I think really for and maybe I could speak for OU fans all over, is that the expectation coming into this year was that we were supposed to have this historic class, and it's just taking just we're not patient enough, right? So,
well, and if I could just piggyback off of that and kind of circle back to something there that you're touching on. One of the questions that you asked was, how does OU win these recruitments? Well, OU has, I think, done a pretty good job of winning the ones that they have, despite coming in the aftermath of Lincoln Riley leaving. And then the other obstacle that they kind of put in front of themselves is the 6-7 season.
Yeah.
And that is a difficult thing. I would suspect, I don't know this for sure, but whenever you're looking at somebody like Williams Nwaneri, and you're trying to differentiate yourself from a Missouri, his short-term memory and the thing that he's got as his most recent example of OU is a little bit hard to try and differentiate from Missouri as far as winning and that kind of culture. And so I think winning 10 games or showing marked improvement as a defense in particular is a way that you go from winning maybe one or two of these 5-star recruitments in a year to winning, 3 or 4 or 5, and being able to really put some power behind your message and differentiate yourself from other schools in this process. So that winning solves a lot of problems, and putting yourself in front of these recruitments is one thing I think that's going to be a major factor in.
No, I think winning cures a lot. I think I've told Jay plenty of times on my show, his show, Ty's show. Shout out to Ty, Round the Table Sports, y'all. Check him out as well. But I think if we get 10+ wins this year, hell, I think we get 9+ wins this year. I think we can circle back on some kids, even some kids that it may look like it's a foregone conclusion. I think we can circle back and at least have one last conversation about, hey, do you want to join us or do you want to go ahead and go? So I definitely think that's what's going to help, and looking good as well. And Okoye, I'll spare everybody that. Okoye, Nigel Smith, those are names out there that, look good while you're doing it. Look impressive and just show the improvement from year to year, from last year to this year, not only with the talent that you have, but just also kind of just showing like, hey, I didn't forget how to coach. We may have had one bad year, but I didn't forget how to coach. I still put dudes in the league left and right more than a lot of people do, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's I think that's another perfect segue into our second topic, which is realistic expectations for the first 3 to 5 games. I put system. I meant to say of this season. So, Cap, we'll circle back to you and we'll just go from there. Like, what should we see versus what will we probably see? Like in your mind, what do you actually want to see?
I want to see a couple of things. The two things that I'll be watching the most closely are the defensive effort in these initial, first few games, what that looks like. There's a lot of new faces on that defense, and guys that were there last year who were expecting to take a jump, like Kanek and even Downs and Isaiah Coe and Jonah Lulu and a couple of others. But there's a lot of different guys either in the starting lineup or in the rotation that are going to be relied on to make an impact. And I think me, along with Sooner Nation, is going to be really watching that to see how it all takes shape. Can it look good early is the question, especially going into somewhere like SMU in early in the season and competing against what has been a high octane offense, albeit without Tanner Mordecai this year, but still a challenging system that stresses you and could catch them off guard as a new team and a new season. So we'll see. I want to see how they react to that. The other thing that I'm very curious about is the offensive line's performance early in the season. Going back the last few years, it typically takes Bill Biedenbaugh a few games to figure out the rotations and for those guys to really gel.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, if you look on paper, this has got to be one of OU's best offensive lines on paper since 2018. And they've got extremely talented guys at several positions that are probably going to end up highly drafted whenever it's their time. I have high expectations for this unit. I want to see them accelerate that timeline that they typically take to gel. I want to see them performing well early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And that means success running the ball, success in pass pro, and being efficient, giving Gabriel time, and just looking good as they work together. And if they can do that, then that sets them up really well, I think, to go undefeated during that initial stretch of 3 to 5 games. And then if that happens, then and they continue on their usual trajectory of improvement, then I think that bodes well for the season.
Yeah. Jay?
Man, if we want to talk about expectations for Team 129, man,
Hey, and we're not talking about the whole season. We're just saying that first 3 to 5 games.
Right. I mean, look, I'm looking at the competition on there, and honest. Okay, I'll say this: the game that's going to really make me a little nervous is the SMU game, and this is the reason why. They hit the portal hard, and if those players can gel well enough, they're going to make us work for that W. Now, I see that us going undefeated all the way until we get to Red River, mainly because Iowa State probably won't even have a team when we play against them. And I mean, is Cincinnati even real? Right now, they're still trying to figure out what they've got going on after Luke Fickell left. So I'm thinking that we'll go undefeated all the way, but the first 3 games is going to be fascinating for Sooner fans. And I say that for this reason. I'm going to put out my depth chart. I'm going to give y'all a little bit of a teaser on it. I've been doing some reading and seeing what everybody else is talking about, and I'm kind of agreeing with a little bit of consensus. I think Marcus Major is going to be our starting running back game 1. Here's the reason why. Why would you play Javonte Barnes coming off foot surgery first week of the season? Well, you really ain't got to, right? Why would you even use up Gavin Sawchuk? Go ahead and put Major out there, see how healthy he is, see what he can produce, and, work your way through that. So I think the running back room is going to be interesting to see who goes out and play. I think that the tight end room will probably be like a live competition right there during those 3 games because we're still trying to figure out what we have there as well. And then from there, defensively, we have zero excuse to not shut out all 3 teams the first 3 games of the season. Honestly, 4 games. Correction, the first 5 games. We should not give up more than 10 points average. We shouldn't give up more than 50 points over the first 5 games this season. We have no excuse. We were able to do it last year against similar mediocre competition, and our defense is not as good as it is this year. That's probably the one thing I can say. Our defense is a hell of a lot better. If they gel properly, we could walk in to Red River with giving up the least amount of points in college football if we do everything we're supposed to. And that's my expectation. We should be walking into Red River giving up the least amount of points in college football. Period.
No, I feel that. For me, I'm going to kind of just piggyback off of both of you guys. I'll go off of what Cap said first. First off, with the offensive line, I think this, like I said, for me, I think this is the year that Andrew Raym can actually step out and just feel free to kind of just do what he does, right? Just kind of be on his own because he's going to have Savion Byrd, who I am so excited about. I feel Savion Byrd is going to be physical. I feel like he's going to bring that toughness, that intensity to that position on the inside with him. Like I've told you, Jay, I just feel with Raym, you can't have 2 interior guys who are not ready to mix it up and be very physical. I like Chris Murray a lot, But Chris Murray also had kind of some of his, short arms, different things like that. Y'all can listen to Iker talk about it all day, every day. I like Chris Murray. At times, I like Matuire as well. Matuire is supposedly healthy. People are saying is you're going to see a totally different him. I want to see it because I think outside of Guyton, obviously you want to see that left side with Rouse or whatnot. But Guyton, I mean, it's just talent across the board on that offensive line. I think you're going to have we say that competitive depth there as well with both Jakes, Caden Green as well. I think he's going to get some time or whatnot. But at the same time, man, you just want to see that progression. But it all starts with our center and all starts with Andrew Rain. I think Andrew Rain has to have pretty much his best year, honestly, out there. But I think what helps him is the fact that you put Savion Byrd next to him. And if Matuire is as good as they have advertised, during camp, that really helps you out an awful lot. Defensively, I go back to what I saw firsthand at the spring game. I just saw a variety of different types of athletes, of different type of size, different type of speed, different type of just pace to the game as well. They were setting the edge. I mean, it's a spring game, but it's just some of those things that you would just say that's principle, that's fundamental. They're doing that stuff now, and it feels like they're flying out there. The biggest thing that I want to say is honestly, obviously that front seven. You want to see that D line be aggressive. You want to see what are we going to get an edge rush this year, and then I've been thinking about this all week leading up to this podcast. I definitely want to commend Deshaun White on the job that he was able to do to really grasp that cheater position towards the end of the year. But with Justin Harrington and Deshaun McCullough, I mean, come on, man. It should be elevated. That skill level should be elevated at that position. And I'm hopeful that Justin Harrington can be the player that we all thought he would be coming out of JUCO. And be able to, just improve week by week. But I want to see him and McCullough. But I think those are two guys that you can mix it up with. And I think Justin Harrington wants to hit everybody just as much as anybody else. So I'm excited about that. Secondary, I think that's where we're going to be our strongest initially until we make sure everybody is gelling and being consistent on their defensive line. But that's just kind of my thoughts. My expectations, honestly, for the first 3 to 5 games is not only to see a couple of shutouts, but just look dominant and look clean and look like we've grown, in certain areas. We're playing complementary football. That's what I want to see. I want to see complementary football throughout the first 5 games. It's not necessarily do I want to see somebody emerge or do this or do that from the wide receiver core or whatever. I just want to see us play complementary football on and off the field, meaning the players are making plays, they're doing things, they're being put in the right position. And then the coaches, we're not having those lapses that we had last year as far as, 3 and out within, 3 minutes of possession and then putting our defense right back out there on the field in inopportune, positions. So that's kind of my expectation, is just to see true complementary football and see us take that step to grow towards the Red River game.
I can totally see that. I'm also curious to how much Jackson Arnold we're going to see in the first 3 games.
Yeah.
I anticipate packages happening with him in it. Like, I don't see a red shirt happening this year. I think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to only play mop-up duty, though. I can really see him actually going out there in some packages because this is a good opportunity to tinker and understand what your team looks like. I think, if anything, the least amount of tinkering you're going to probably see is on the defensive side, because I think they want to make a statement. That makes, to me, a big statement made in these first 3 games, shutting down other teams, doing everything they did last year, but at 10, man, because last year, the first 3 games, we gave up an average of 10 points a game, 30 points total. Like, we was Kent State, Nebraska, we was shutting folks down.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I anticipate us really trying to hone in and doing that, but even bigger.
Yeah.
And luckily, Iowa State and Cincinnati are not 2 games we should be truly concerned about, as they're, like I said, they're trying to figure life out for themselves. And I don't even know if Iowa State's going to have a team. That's something that we need to go out there and do that. We need to go out there and dominate defensively. I don't care who plays, just dominate defensively.
And I'll say just the Tulsa game I think will be interesting only because, like I said, I like Kevin Wilson a lot as a play caller. It'll be interesting seeing him as a head coach again, but it definitely, I like him as a play caller. I know he'll have a couple of things dialed up. Cincinnati, the only thing that I'm not even sure if it's a real concern, but the only thing that I see in that Cincinnati game is, okay, do they use Emory Jones like Texas Tech used their backup quarterback last year, right? Are they doing quarterback runs basically? Are they going West Virginia, Texas Tech play style, trying to just run at us and chip away at us? And are we disciplined enough to actually run through the right gap, actually stay there, actually feel correctly, do all the things that you need to do to be a successful defense? That's the only thing that I would say about that game, because I could see them trying to slow the game down, make it a thing of a game of possessions. You got to have possessions and score, obviously. So that is something that I would see with that. And then Iowa State's going to come in here with nothing to lose. They're just going to throw their best shot. So
what players?
That is true. That's true too. That's true too. Cap, you got anything else to add on that?
No, I don't think so. Really, other than just the other thing that I'll be watching is Brent Venables and his in-game adjustments and just overall game management. Yeah. It's one thing that he's acknowledged has been an area that they need to improve on. Listening to people around the program, it sounds like they're taking steps to address those things, but proof is in the pudding, and you want to see that actual improvement in a game and what that's going to look like.
For sure. Stephen G says, I want to see the QB run game to see if we have gotten better, seeing that has been the kryptonite to OU for a while. Yeah, I definitely think that you will see that with Gabriel. I think he'll definitely be pulling a little bit more, simply because, I mean, you got Jackson on deck, but at the same time, I think that's a part of the game for Levy that he wants to. I think he definitely wants to use that this year. You saw a little bit of it during the Florida State game, which I keep telling people. I think if you want to see a true blueprint for this team, go to that Florida State game. Granted, we lost. That was about as complete as a football game that we played all last year, leading into this year, obviously. But that was about as a complete game as you could see on both sides of the ball. And I mean, you knew at times we were going to break. But I mean, Gabriel came out there and he looked terrific. So you're hoping that you see a different Dylan Gabriel, which is what you're hearing from Kemp anyways. So coming up on our last topic, before we do that, people, hey, like, subscribe, share, do all of that to all three people on here. Definitely do that. But going to our last subject, we're going to talk about, Brett Yormark's remarks. His comments yesterday about Texas Tech, at the Texas Tech dinner, luncheon, whatever that was, that special event, talking about OU and Texas. Threw some shots, definitely threw some shade. So my question is, and I'll start with you, Cap, can OU survive the Big 12 and its refs?
The short answer is yes. Now, I don't think either OU or Texas, obviously based on those comments that were made and just, I think, general logic, they're not going to get any favors from the conference this year. Mm-hmm. I think the last thing that Brett Yormark or the other teams in the Big 12 want to see is an OU Texas title game and somebody from of those two winning the conference championship this year. So, I'll stop short of espousing any kind of conspiracy theories other than to say that if there's any kind of legitimate scenario where the conference can exert influence in any sort of way, don't expect OU or Texas to come up on the good side of that decision. Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting that the first time that there's a controversial decision or a call that gets made on the field against either OU or Texas, and just what that looks like. I mean, everybody's going to jump to conclusions and have all sorts of opinions, but as long as OU and Texas take care of business, I believe, other than perhaps a Kansas State or somebody like that, I think those two teams are the favorites, or should be the favorites, just based on the paper evaluations. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, the conference isn't going to do either team any favors this year.
Yeah, I want to add to that on the Your Mark piece, man. I don't know why you would do that and put yourself in a situation where people would question the integrity of your conference. But at the same time, the NCAA is not going to do anything because the NCAA is way too incompetent to actually execute on that. So it's probably why he did it. He knew that he could spit in the face of the leadership, and because technically they're not really leadership. So, but I think Oklahoma, just like Cap said, can overcome things. I don't think it's going to be that difficult for OU to go out there and continue to win. Hell, last year we had one holding call all season, or two, one of the two, and Texas had maybe 2 or 3. They had like one more than we did. Let's put it like that. And they were still able to end up with 8 wins. We ended up with 6, and we were close to closing out, and we didn't win our games because of depth. We've got that now. I think both of us got that now. And so since that's the case, I anticipate that both of us will go in and do what we can to make sure that no matter what the refs try, it don't matter. We're so far up. We're beating them so bad. We ain't got to be concerned about needing any help from the refs doing their actual jobs properly. So Your Mark is going to just make himself a marked man. He knows that on site when he pulls up at in any of these games, with including these two teams, it's going to be a problem. So he don't mind. He needs to do what he can to rally his troops, because his audience is the ones that feel like they're being abandoned by Oklahoma and Texas. And the Oklahoma and Texas feel like Your Mark and them didn't really value them as people in the conference, hence why they're going to the SEC. If they had did something before to show the value, how much they valued Oklahoma and Texas, by making sure they're getting paid as much as what SEC schools are, because they are the breadwinners, we wouldn't be in this situation. But overall, just go out there, just win, baby, and nobody cares.
Honestly, I'd say for me, just in my mind, I not so much Texas, but OU for sure. It makes sense that the Big 12 will mess with them. You got to go to O State, and you got to go to Stillwater this year. So it's just one of those things that I say some fishy things can happen, but like I said last night on the SEC Connect, y'all definitely check out the SEC Connect. You'll find me and Jay there with Ty Hayes and Nick and Steven from Texas fans. But anyways, you'll find us there at SEC Connect for sure every Wednesday, 7:00, yada yada yada. Anyways, like I was saying, last night on the SEC Connect, I just said you got to be 20 points better, 10 points better than the other team, 10 points better than the refs walking in. Can't get on the field, not feel like that. You just got to go out there and handle your business and make sure you're not putting yourself in opportune positions. And that's what we've seen with OU. OU will go out there and get a good lead, and then all of a sudden these other teams just start chipping away. This year it can't be like that because every call may not fall our way, which obviously holding calls weren't really on our side last year. So that's just a thing, man. And it's just the facts of life. We're going to go out here and win this league this year. You're going to have to take it. They're not going to give you anything. They do not want to see OU and Texas either school leave with a Big 12 championship. They do not want that. But in all likelihood, there's a good chance that it happens. So with that, guys, do you guys have anything else that you think we should talk about as far as OU is concerned? I think we hit everything. David Stone, we talked about the Eli Bowen, Andy Bass. We talked about, Brett Yomark and his crazy ass remarks, basically. So anything else y'all could think of?
No, I think we hit all the important topics, man. We're really in the of course we got a week away, about 9 days away from our first game of the season, which everybody's excited about. If you do go to that game, I want to let you know to make sure you drink a ton of Gatorade. Please hydrate yourself, because it's supposed to be like 300 degrees. And so we know that's going to be some craziness. So please be hydrated. We don't want none of y'all passing out. You may have to pass on the beer this time around. I know, sucks. Nobody wants to pass on beer. You probably should pass on the beer this time around, just this time around, and you'll be okay. But besides that, I see some folks talking about Bricks and McKinley. We're just waiting for them to make their decision. Rumor has it Bricks probably won't do an actual announcement, just drop a graphic and walk away. He has that type of personality.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen. McKinley, we're still trying to see if Texas is going to win that one or if we can come in and win it too. I'm 55-45 on it. I know that he loved, him and his mom loved Soul Mission. They also like the academics at Texas. And so we just got to show them that our engineering program is better than Texas, even though the rankings are skewed towards Texas because they got a lot of money.
Well, there you have it. I would love to have McKinley. I don't know why I didn't think about McKinley, but yeah, McKinley, Bricks, guys like that, still trying to basically. How many recruits do we have in this 24 class already?
People in our class?
Yeah.
I think we had 20.
Okay.
I think we're at 20 now.
I know we weren't. I knew we weren't light on numbers. We were just kind of light on some of the guys that we want.
21. We got 21 commits so far.
All right. Well, with that being said, Jay, thank you for wrapping that up. I'm going to go down the line one more time and let everybody tell you where you can find them at. That way you can subscribe to their channels, go to their websites, get all their content. So with that being said, Jay, go ahead.
Yep, Jay, Unfair Sports. Search for me on YouTube as well as on Twitter. And you can find me wherever podcasts are downloaded and listen to. Thanks, Chris, for having me.
Appreciate you. Cap, I say this right here. Don't be a stranger to the show. We'll definitely love to have you come back on. And not necessarily even talk about recruiting or anything like that. Just talk about what you saw during the game, getting your analysis and seeing kind of where you see this team going and how can we improve to the next week. So with that being said, Cap, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and your content.
You can find me Cap_405. You can also find me at Crimson_Cap and at crimsoncaptain.com. And I appreciate the chance to be on. I'll definitely join anytime.
Definitely. Well, with that being said, y'all, we are